meteorologist Brian MacMillan, and you are Erin Mayovsky.
I'm here.
And you know what? Erin used to be here at the Weather Center every day, and now you are on the anchor desk. But I thought, who would be the perfect person to join me for this? Because you know so much about weather as well.
And I love weather.
Yeah, and you love weather, and I know you miss it already.
Every day I say, are you still using my graphics? Are we still have my rundown in there?
And yes, I am, and yes, I do.
for sure.
We are going to allow some folks to join here. This is going to be kind of more of an interactive thing, and we want to have you ask us some questions about the incoming storm that's going to have some big travel impacts over the Cascades coming up over the next 24 hours.
Yeah, we want to make sure we know that we're talking rain in the lowlands, so we're talking Cascade snow. But it's kind of fun to talk about this time of year.
It is, because this is the first kind of significant storm system that we've had in regards to snow up in the Cascades. And if you've been traveling over the Cascades for, let's say, going over to Pullman or something like that for football games, or going to visit family out in Spokane, you haven't really had any issues yet over any of our major highways. But tonight and into tomorrow, you're going to have some big issues because we have a big weather system coming in.
We're not even talking about just the mountains. We're talking about further east we go into Chelan and Okanagan counties getting a little bit there too. So.
Absolutely. So here in the lowlands, we're going to be looking at rain. So we're going to talk about all this, and we're going to answer your questions as well. Now, I think so. I'm going to look up here. Oh yeah, there's a QR code right here. Yeah. Okay, there's a QR code. You use your phone and just snap that with your phone's camera.
Right, super easy.
Yep, and then you can ask us a question at any point here, and we'll pick some of these questions and answer them on the air. All right, are we ready to go?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm excited for this.
All right, well, first off, we do have a question here, and it's what's the difference between wet and dry snow? So what we're going to be getting is kind of, I guess all snow is wet to a point because it's all made of water, right? But when we talk about wet snow, we're talking about those big fat flakes, okay? And we're talking about the kind of snow that's really tough to drive through, the stuff that's a lot more thick. When you get the dry snow, you know, it's like when you go up to the mountains in the middle of the winter, and it's that crystallized stuff.
And it's so quiet and peaceful.
Exactly. It just starts blowing all around, and that is the nice kind of snow to drive through because it's easy to get through. But what we're going to be seeing tonight over the Cascades is more of that wet snow. And if we can get to our graphics right now, I do want to show what our radar is looking like right at this moment. We are still seeing this first round of showers move through. There's a low pressure system. It's just off the coast here, so it's going to be spinning in several rounds of showers, Erin. So this is round one, and you see it on the coast. This is, you know, what you typically see on a fall day when it comes to rain.
You see it starting to hit the Olympics, and you see some color contour changes there. So
exactly. So we'll zoom in a little bit here. Right along the strait, out near Forks, this area here, near Queets and Forks. This is where we're seeing some of that heavier rainfall. And as we work our way down the coast, down towards Westport, we've got a few cells down there. I can't rule out some thunderstorms out along the coast today. I think most of the action will be out there in regards to thunderstorms, but there is a chance that we see a couple pop up around the Puget Sound area later today as well. What else do you notice? We're not seeing anything right now up and down the I-5 corridor, really between Bellingham through Everett, Seattle, and Tacoma. And then you get down to Olympia, and we're just seeing some light showers. So the morning commute, totally fine. It's a relaxing morning commute. Traffic was fine this morning, but the evening commute, I think, is what's going to be nasty later on.
Yeah, and if you have any kids out there, like my kids, soccer games tonight, it's going to be a little breezy and blustery. It's going to be one of those wet ones.
My daughter has a cross-country meet tonight and a soccer practice tonight. And so
are you coaching?
Oh, man. No, I'm not coaching, but I'll be sitting out there in the rain for both of
Oh, my goodness.
Poor girl, we're going to have to bring lots of clothes. If you do have plans tonight, like definitely bring lots of gear for the kids to dry off.
Especially for the ride home. I always like to get just like one of those big old blankets, throw it in the car, because when they get in with the cleats and the mud and, you know, from lacrosse or whatever, you just can at least get in the car and then wrap it all up.
Yeah.
It's going to be sloppy.
Let's talk about what's happening, okay? So just atmospheric-wise, what's happening. If we can go back to our graphics here, we'll take a look at this low-pressure system that's going to be dipping down the coast. And it's kind of dragging in all that cold air with it from the north. We haven't really seen this kind of air mass here in the Pacific Northwest since last winter.
Right.
Okay, so this is a much colder air mass, and it's interacting with the precip that this low is going to be providing. So, you know, a few weeks back, you have this same type of system. It might be a little breezy. It's really wet, but there's not an issue up in the Cascades. Now
Not
that
really
we have,
getting that cold air, you know?
right, now this time of year, we're getting toward late October. Now's the time of year where we get much colder air masses in, and it's going to drag down that snow level down to about 3,000 feet. So you look at the various mountain ranges, right? We got, or the various pass levels. Let me get to this graphic. Let's see here with our snow levels. Let's see, there it is, right there. So on our snow levels, Snoqualmie Pass is about 3,000 feet. Then you got Stevens Pass up at about 4,000 feet, and then White Pass is about 4,600 square feet. So at 3,000 feet is where Snoqualmie Pass is, and that's probably our busiest pass going across the mountains.
And usually, you know, when we're in this early kind of winter snowfall event, sometimes we see Snoqualmie Pass, we see it just up above at the tippy tops, right?
Yeah.
Because we're getting snow at 5,000, 6,000 feet.
Sure.
We're looking up thinking, oh, when's that going to come down? But we're talking about it now with some warnings and advisories.
And you see that white line? That's kind of where this model, it's called the GFS, is going to show where exactly that snow level is. It's bouncing between 3,000 and 4,000 feet. Don't get too attached to that because we get a heavy downpour, which I expect coming up over the next 24 hours, several of those. And that actually brings that cold air that's higher up, and it drags it a little farther down in elevation. So then you get, you know, yes, this shows about 3,000 to 4,000 feet, but it's probably going to be more like 2,500 to 3,000 feet.
And
so
it fluctuates, you know. It definitely fluctuates. When it gets down to that 3,000 feet, that's when I think most of us start getting really worried because most of us are traveling over that I-90.
Yes.
And it usually tends to happen as we go towards the weekend. But right now we're talking tomorrow, you know, we're talking midweek. So maybe not as much past travel, but again, there's always things to look at for precautionary measures getting across with this.
So I was looking it up, and you were looking up all the WashDOT stuff,
well,
right?
yeah, I just wanted to remind people about, you know, studded tires. That's something that you think, oh my goodness, is it this time of year again? And we're getting real close. Adam mentioned it this morning in his traffic reports, but November 1st through March 31st, that's when you're allowed to have your studded tires
So the
on.
bummer part is you can't put them on now. You can't
Yeah.
have your studded tires on yet to get over the passes, so you're going to have to bring chains just in case.
Yeah, so you just want to avoid putting them on too early in the season as they tend to wear out quickly and clear. I mean, I guess you could try to get them on and hope, but it's not really great to put them on because you can get a fine and a ticket there.
That's a big ticket too.
Right. Even though we're so close, and I get it.
The reason why too that they kind of hold off until November for it is because typically year to year we don't get much snow up on the passes like in the month of October. I looked back all the way to 2010 here, okay, and there was, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. 5 years since 2010 we've actually had snow on the ground at Snoqualmie Pass.
So not a ton.
No, no. And I mean the snowiest year was back in 2012. We had 10 inches.
Okay.
This could match that or beat that potentially just in this one storm.
Yeah, for sure. And we have another question. Do I need tire change this weekend?
I think if you're going over the passes this weekend, you do not need to change, okay? So this is going to be a tonight and tomorrow thing.
Yeah.
And then we may get a little bit of some flurry action on Friday. I'm not too worried about that. But this weekend looks sunny.
And I think, too, the thing is if you're going to go over the passes in the mountains throughout the season, you might want to think about getting changed just to have in your car, just in case. Even if you have all-wheel drive and studded tires, it's always good to have that a precautionary. And here's a little tip. If you don't use them, you have about 90 days. If they're unused, unopened, you can usually return to places like O'Reilly's or
I think Les Schwab, they let you borrow it for the season. I could be wrong about that.
Well, they're so great anyways with the tires if you get a little hole in your tires.
But I think if you don't use them, the chains, you can just give them back to them at the end of the season. But it's one of those things that if you need them, you are going to be really upset that you don't have them in your car. So let's see here. Rob says, last week Noah said we'd have a warmer winter. That doesn't seem like it's going to be warmer. Well, overall, typically this is an El Nino winter. Okay.
We've had some La Nina winters for years going.
Yeah, 3 years in a row we had a La Nina winter. So
which is a little bit unusual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we haven't had it 3 years in a row in a really long time.
Yeah.
So these El Nino winter typically on average as a whole is warmer and drier. Of course, we're not starting off the season that way, are we?
No, we're not.
It doesn't mean we're not going to have these individual events because these individual events can happen, but as a whole, we're expecting it to be a little warmer and a little drier.
And you can kind of talk about that in the lowlands and up in the high country, right? Because we could see a little bit more in the higher elevations of the mountains, maybe mid-level on the slopes going forward. And people say, well, wait, you said this, you said that. But we're definitely going to see probably a little bit warmer and drier in the lowlands.
Okay. So one other thing I want to show you here is how much snow we're going to get, okay? And I want to focus, and I know the Olympic Peninsula is going to be getting some as well up there near Hurricane Ridge. And I'll just say it right now, we could see about 6 to 10 inches of snow up that direction as well. So that's the Olympic Peninsula. Meanwhile, over the Cascades, if you're traveling over Highway 2, that is going to be the roughest spot. And I always say that's where we're going to send the reporters, because that's where the good stuff is, right?
I know, where you can definitely see it.
Yeah. 8 to 15 inches. There could be spots that achieve more than that. We could see 1 to 2 feet up in some of those higher elevations. Okay, Snoqualmie Pass and White Pass are going to see a little bit less. White Pass is going to see a little bit less because I'm expecting kind of the bullseye for the heaviest precip to be a little farther north. But White Pass still could see about 6 to 10 inches, and Snoqualmie Pass 6 to 10 inches.
And we're talking a little shift can make a big difference too.
Totally,
so,
yeah.
You know, always check the roads. Check in with Brian and the forecast team here at Fox. You can always check in with WashDOT. They're really good on social media too, along with Fox, our team, putting out the correct alerts to get you minute-to-minute updates.
Right, and all this can change as we get a little bit closer, but the bottom line is we're going to be seeing snow up there, and that all starts tonight. As far as the timing goes, let me get to that, because I want to show you like exactly when you can hit the roads, when you shouldn't be hitting the roads. So let's show you that. This is our Futurecast, okay, and this is one of our models, many models that we look at. I think this does a pretty good job at showing us what's going to happen. So this is at noon, and really things start to fill in. It's just light showers in this first round up and down the I-5 corridor. Notice, though, we're starting to get a little bit of snow up in the Cascades. It's real light stuff. But do you see just east of Seattle, okay, and you work your way along I-90 there, and that's where we're starting to see that kind of shift over to snow from rain. It might take a little while for that to happen, except for at the top, right at the pass level.
Right.
It might take a little while for that to shift from rain to snow. It may be kind of a mix for a while. But
that's kind of what that pink line is too. It gets you into that middle mix.
Exactly. And so then we get into the 5 o'clock hour. Okay, now here we're starting to see some of that heavier rain, especially out on the coast over the Olympic Peninsula. And then we'll see that real heavy rain as the front pushes through, move its way inland as we get into like the 9 o'clock hour tonight. So after sunset's when we'll see the heaviest rain. And that's also going to be when we'll see the heaviest snow, too.
Yeah, and you can see most of the snow line is up over the highest elevations, and then we slide east into Chelan County and Okanagan County and some of those elevations on the eastern slopes of the foothills of the Eastern Cascades. People want to know in the foothills here, the Issaquah Highlands, Brian, are we going to see snow?
I don't think we're going to see snow in the Issaquah Highlands. Not today, not tonight, tomorrow. Don't worry, Issaquah Highlands, you will get your moment. You'll have your moment probably coming up a little bit later on this season.
Yeah.
One spot in the lower elevations, maybe 1,000 to 2,000 feet, where we could see some snow, will be up on the north end where the air is colder, up in western Whatcom County, western Skagit County. Those areas of the foothills, between 1,000 and 2,000 feet. If you're up there, that's where we could see a little bit of snow, or maybe kind of a rain and snow mix up that direction.
And Mount Baker is always a good bet that you're going to get some good dumping and carry out the most totals throughout the year here in our area.
Travis is wondering, when will the ski areas open now? Oh, that's what we all want to know, right? I think they're all, from what they've said, they all try to open up by Thanksgiving weekend, right?
And sometimes it's really tough, especially with an El Nino year. We're kind of wavering and seeing which way we're going to land, but it's always nice when they can because, it's fun to get up there and do that when it's safe and it helps out the ski slopes for the longevity of their run.
Yeah, and in these El Nino years, sometimes it's delayed.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will be the exception, but, this snow that's going to fall today doesn't mean it's going to stick around, right?
True.
We could have a warm system that comes through in early November, and that just washes it all away. So that could very well happen. Let's get back to our graphics here. I do want to show you kind of when this is going to wrap up. So this is at 9 o'clock tonight when we'll see the heaviest rain down in the lowlands, and then some of the heaviest snow up in the mountains will be around 11 to midnight tonight, probably. That's when we're going to... by the way, tune into the 10 o'clock news on Fox 13 tonight, because it's going to be... I'm sure we're sending a reporter up there, and it'll be great.
Abby will have to lead it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. And then we get into the overnight period and things start to taper off a little bit. And you see that low pressure system
You
dipping
can
its way down.
definitely see the rotation. When you're going in slow motion, it's nice to kind of see how that rotates around and that low presses it right into Puget Sound.
That's right. Those lows, atmosphere circulates counterclockwise around those low pressure systems. So now things are feeding in from the south here. And as that kind of works its way inland, that's where we're going to start to see those winds, those Fraser Valley outflow winds pick up a little bit. If you live in those areas up in western Whatcom County, it's like bone chilling.
Remember
right?
how cold it was last year? I mean, we were all freezing in Seattle, but up to the north, it is, like you said, bone chilling, just ice up there.
It won't be too bad.
Yeah.
We're talking 25 to 35 mile an hour winds, but that'll
But
be
still, that brings the temperature down a lot.
Wind chill is legit, yeah. Then we get into tomorrow afternoon. Notice that low makes its way on shore, kind of loses steam, and then there we go. We're back to sunshine.
So tomorrow morning commute, that's going to be, it's going to take a bit to clear it out.
It will.
Yeah.
So if you're traveling over the mountains, I would wait until either tomorrow afternoon or I would go now. So right after we're done with this, turn it off and then go across the mountain.
Should we give some tips and some reminders here? Okay,
Sure.
so let's do this. Let's talk about this. The general rule of thumb is around 45 degrees. That's for talking about putting the studded tires on. So the rubber compound on most regular tires begins to harden at this temperature and no longer grips the roads effectively. So
interesting.
Yeah, so we looked at that. Okay, so these are just kind of some common sense things here. Make sure that your vehicle's battery, belts, hoses, the radiator, the lights, brakes, heater, defroster, all that's working, right? We want to have windshield wiper fluid and everything's working. You want to have gas in your car, full tank. Rule of thumb, you're going over the mountains, you never know whether it's rain, wind, or anything, so that's
or if
good.
gas stations are going to be closed, things like that.
And it's hard to find a gas station when you're in that long route.
Totally, there's a long stretch there where they're not around. Tori wants to know if we should plan for black ice on the roads. I would say not necessarily tonight. So tonight you're going to be fine in the lowlands. Now, tomorrow night could be a very different story when it comes to the North Sound, so western Whatcom and western Skagit counties, and then the north end of the Olympic Peninsula as well. Port Townsend, Port Ludlow, those areas up there could see freezing temperatures.
Yeah,
So,
when you dry out and you get the cold air and the clear nights.
Yeah, we're going to get those clear nights as well. So tomorrow night may be the first freeze for some. Erin was talking earlier that she still has tomatoes growing.
I know, they're like on the tail end. They're just, so good, but they're not going to be edible this last round.
And you bring them inside now.
Yeah.
You got to take
They're
care of them.
heirloom, and so they're all chunky looking anyways, right?
Yeah, and so if you want to wait, this weekend everybody is probably going to get either close to freezing or below freezing. So we're definitely going to be frosty this weekend for everybody else. So any sensitive plants, this is the week to bring them in. I would do it over the next couple of days if you can, so you don't forget.
And I don't know about you, Brian. I mean, we're in the forecast center. We've done it for, 20 plus years. And it's that change that always gets me, where I looked up, the last couple mornings and thought, oh my gosh, Brian has his temperatures in the 30s. It just flips like that. And it's
like
time to bring out the puffy parkas that I call my outdoor bathrobe for the whole season long, right?
My wife has we call it a sleeping bag jacket.
That's what I have.
And it goes all the way down to like her ankles, and she just zips it up all the way and just kind of sits there like.
Keeps you toasty for sure.
It does. Let's take a look here coming up as we kind of go ahead in the lowlands, because the lowlands, it's going to be all about the rain.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much rain are we expecting? It's quite a bit, actually. And this model right here going between about a ½ inch to an inch of rain from Snohomish County, Skagit County area down to Seattle. And then you get south of Seattle, we could see potentially over an inch of rain in some spots. That's a lot. And this time of year, of course, we have the leaves that have fallen now at this point, because we're past our peak when it comes to fall colors. And now we got cleanup to do. And then you have all the drains out there that have leaves all over them. And then you get a significant amount of rain. When you're talking about a ½ inch to an inch, now you're talking about some localized flooding. So we're probably going to be dealing with that for the morning commute tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we need it though. That's the thing. We've harped on this all year long. We've been behind on our rain totals, and we're probably around 5 inches plus or something behind, maybe.
Yeah, we're over 5 inches behind.
Okay, so not ideal. I think I looked up some stats early on when we were getting any rain, and California was getting so much rain, and San Francisco and Los Angeles getting more rain than us and ahead of our rain totals. That's a sign of the shift in things to change. But we know we can always make up some of this rain in the fall, and that is one of the most kind of rewarding things when you have a
Yeah.
dry summer for the Pacific Northwest, because we definitely need it.
Sam wants to know, should we be worried about pipes freezing? I don't think quite
Yeah.
yet.
Not yet.
This weekend, and usually with pipes freezing, you're going to need temperatures well below freezing.
Yes.
So you're talking like down into the
Teens.
mid-20s,
Yeah.
low 20s, get some of that wind coming in as well. Every house is different though too. You know, some of that wind will get under the house.
Yes.
And then you have to worry about those pipes.
And I have one of those houses, 1937 house, where we have to open up under the sink and kind of keep the cupboard doors open and maybe put some towels in there just
Yeah.
to kind of wrap around the pipes, just to be precautionary, because when they burst, if you don't leave a slow drip in some spots,
It's a
then
nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
I've covered so many of those types
Yeah.
of things. As far as the pipes freezing though, I would go out and I would, get some of those, what do they call the faucet covers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Do it now
Yeah.
because they sell out.
Yeah.
When we get a hard freeze, those things sell out. So get that done. You know,
Yeah.
you probably don't need the hoses anymore. We're going to be getting rain
Right.
quite a bit. You can undo the hose. Just kind of start the process. But I don't think we're going to have to worry about pipes freezing, at least down here in the lowlands for a while.
I think this weekend after this little event, once we get through, will be a good kind of week leading into the weekend to kind of clean it up and make sure everything's kind of secure and we're getting in that winter mode.
Okay, Butch says, "Is this earlier than usual to see snow? I thought El Nino,
know.
was going to cancel winter.
No!
Not completely.
Yeah.
And like I said
Yeah.
a little bit earlier, looking back to 2010, we did have snow up at Snoqualmie Pass. Was that 5 out of the past 12
Yeah, right.
years? Okay, it's about half the time.
But
This-
we
I
weren't
would say-
talking about a ton of snow.
No, I would say this is a little bit on the
Yeah.
early side.
Yeah.
So some years are unusual. Actually, if you while we're talking here, I do want to bring up a special graphic that I made about.
I like this graphic. It talks you through it and it tells you about kind of some of the snow, right? Is this
Yes.
perfect?
Okay. So I'm going to bring this up. Okay. This is snow during El Nino winters. Okay. So down here in the lowlands, since a lot of you, that's what really matters, right?
Yeah.
Lowland snow. That's
Yeah.
what impacts so many of us. Some snow is likely during El Nino winters, but a lot of snow down in the lowlands is not likely. Okay. El Nino winters are usually drier. They are usually warmer. We've been talking a lot about that. However, seeing a system like this come through and bring some snow to the mountains, we'll take it, because who knows what the rest of this El Nino winter will bring. Now down here, I looked back on all the El Nino winters dating back to 1994, okay?
Look at you.
And those M's, that means missing data. All this stuff is
Right.
taken at the airport, and during that, there was a period of time there where they stopped measuring snow at the
Yep.
airport for whatever reason. So we've only had big snow in the lowlands, in Seattle area, one time out of the last 10 El
And I
Nino
loved it.
winters. Did you that
I
2018,
liked it.
2019?
I loved it because it got to the point where, the city does shut down and it can be dangerous in some spots. But then it got to that compact snow where you could just kind of safely drive on it and get around. You
Yeah.
know, and we knew it was going to be here for like a week. I'm not a huge fan of the snow events that happen, in the morning, there's slush by the afternoon. I like a little stick around. So,
Well, most of these winters, you can see it's just less than an inch.
Not
I mean,
much.
one year we got nothing back in 2004, 2005, in 2014, 2015, and then our last El Nino, which was back in 2019, 2020, we had less than an inch. So, that could be our reality this El Nino winter,
Yeah.
and most of the time it is. But you know what? There was always an exception. There was always an exception, and that winter of 2018, 2019 was a pretty big El Nino winter.
yeah.
So that's that. Let's take a look here. I want to show you one more thing, your 7-day forecast, and here's why. Wednesday night could be really interesting up in the North Sound, and then again up in the northern end of the Olympic Peninsula. That's where we're going to see potentially temperature dropping below freezing up in those areas. Okay, so that could be our first big freeze of the season for Western Washington. Then look at these overnight lows as you get to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday is going to be our coldest morning that we've had all season long. Okay, and there's going to be a lot of spots that are below freezing that day. So that morning, the good news I have for you is that it's going to be dry the day before. We're probably going to be fine when it comes to the roads and ice and stuff like that. You just never know, though. Be careful on Sunday morning if you're heading to church or something
Yeah.
super early. We're going to see temps below freezing. So if you
Bundle
have,
up for the Seahawks.
Yep, bundle up for the Seahawks. Also, if you have like soccer games on Saturday morning,
Yeah.
if you have things going on Saturday, sports for the kids, that's going to be really, really chilly. There's probably going to be frost on the
How about
grass. And
sports
all that
for the
stuff.
adults?
Are you playing?
Sunday, Saturday, midday. It's usually late morning, late afternoon. So I don't have
Got to
to go
wear the
early.
base layer for that, then, Aaron.
Oh, it gets cold. Got to
It's
keep
going to be cold.
for sure.
It's going to be cold. But yeah, be careful if your travels take you over the highways.
Got another one here.
Oh, we do.
What does our Halloween forecast look like?
Oh, that's a great
backtrack a
question.
little bit.
I love
Yeah.
that. Okay, so Halloween so far looking dry.
Yeah.
Which is
So far.
good news. Of course, things can change as we get a little bit closer, because where are we right now? Halloween's
about a
next
week
Tuesday.
out?
We're
Yeah, Tuesday.
A week out.
Okay.
So the forecast could change a little bit. Right now it looks mainly clear and dry. It's just going to be really cool. So bundle
Yeah.
the kiddos up. And thanks to Laura for asking that.
Yeah.
Stay tuned as we get closer, of course. Are you dressing up for Halloween? Are the kids dressing up for Halloween?
My kids usually, they're in their teens now, but they definitely usually do. And I think my mom had said, you should get in that Barbie dress. I said, oh, okay. And Brian should be the Ken on the morning show. I thought that's kind of funny,
should
but
be
I'm
Ken?
not. Yeah.
All right, I'm down.
It's good to go. But I think what I usually like to do is have a mask and something all black on. And I love to go walk around and just kind of get in the mix with people's conversations. And they don't know who I am. And it's just kind of fun, to kind of play that spooky, scary role.
Halloween is kind of a toss-up every year. I'm going to see real quick here while we're talking.
It is a toss-up, and I think most people who have young kids, toddlers, anywhere from the preschool age up into the elementary school age through sixth grade, want to know what's going to happen in their neighborhood. Many neighborhoods have those community events where they do it after school, and it's usually like a 4 to 6 thing, or maybe it's in the downtown area of like Edmonds or Magnolia or Queen Anne, big events where you can walk to the storefronts and things like that. A lot of it sometimes is covered when you're walking on the sidewalks, Brian, but it gets pretty cool and cold. Even just when it's dry, you get that breeze going through, but kids still always up for looking for the big candy bars.
Exactly.
Not the small little fun
do you do
size.
the big candy bars? We don't do that at my house, but
I don't do any candy at my house because not a soul in the whole time I've lived there since 2003 has one trick-or-treater come by.
really?
I live kind of on a remote little
Do you have a
street.
scary house?
No, but the street above us is a main drag where everybody, I think if you buy a house on this one street, you get the, precautionary thing like, hey, you just bought a house, you got to buy $2,000 worth of candy. Because
hilarious.
everybody comes
Well, then
by.
you could have a whole bunch of candy for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
If you buy it and nobody shows up. Okay, before we let you go, and we'll take a look if you have any other questions here, but I do want to show you one last time kind of the bottom line over the next 24 to 48 hours. Here we go. Heavy rain is expected in the lowlands starting this afternoon, continuing on through the evening and into the first half of tomorrow. And in a lot of spots, we're looking at a ½ inch to an inch, and we could see more in some spots as well. Once we start getting over an inch in 24 hours, that's when we start seeing some localized flooding and all of that, especially this time of year with all the leaves on the ground. Heavy snow in the mountains, okay, 6 to 10 inches at Snoqualmie White Passes. Stevens Pass will see about 8 to 15 inches. I am not expecting snow lower than 2,500 feet, let's say. So Issaquah Highlands, there's a lot of areas that, when we start getting into the dead of winter, that will see those types,
Yeah, we
that
get
we'll see
through
some
the Highlands, Enumclaw, North Bend, Preston.
Yeah, all those areas. Yeah, you're going to be fine. Get up to the pass level, though. That's where we're going to see some of that wet snow, and it will cause some travel impacts tonight. And then we have that freeze watch in effect for the North Sound and the northern parts of the Olympic Peninsula as we get into tomorrow night. So we're going to clear out by midday or stretching into the afternoon tomorrow. We should get back to some sunshine. And then things get really cold and are going to stay cold as we finish out the month.
And I want to remind folks, a helpful tool, our Fox Local app. That is something you can download, not only our weather app, but it gives you just right up to the minute of what's happening to find out what we're talking about here. If you missed our newscast, or you can always watch our stream. Sometimes it's replaying the morning show after it goes, so you can kind of backtrack and catch up if you didn't wake up early in the morning to find us here.
That's right. Yeah. Abby Aconi will be here with our newscast tonight. She's going to have an update on the forecast. We'll be sending our reporters out into the stuff so you don't have to get out in it.
Yeah.
And we'll have a full update tomorrow morning as well, which I'll have to get in a little early tomorrow, I think.
Yeah,
so
for
we'll
sure.
see how things go. But be safe out there, everybody, and hunker down tonight as the rain falls down here in the lowlands. And if you can delay your travel until tomorrow afternoon, I think you'll be just fine. Have a good one, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning on Good Day Seattle.
Thanks for joining us.